Hi, the watchers and viewers of our Film Gamer channel, the channel about video games and movies at once. Hi, now really happy to announce a good and really great member of the old Might and Magic teams, and also a new member of a team that developed a new game about refreshment of Might and Magic game, and a lead designer, and also and I'm working in other type of video game industry. I can announce now Team Lang. Hi.
Hey guys,
Uh,
good to be here.
Thank you for participating the interview, and we will talk about the old times of Might and Magic and Heroes games, and also the new times of your new games with the new development team, and also your opinions and advices about the video game business, and about who wants to be and why and how can be a great video game developer or designer or something else. We will see. Firstly, please tell us now when and why and how you choose to work in this type of job as a designer later, and the other parts of the video game industry.
Sure. So I started in like 1996 at New World. I grew up playing video games just like any other kid in the 80s. Um, and at the time, just before I got hired as a tester, I was working at an answering service when I was going to college, and my car died, and I couldn't afford a new car on the salary I was making at this answering service. And a friend of mine already worked at New World, and he said you should come apply.
Oh,
And I said, well, all right, not knowing anything about anything. I don't think I'd even played a Might and Magic game at the time.
uh-huh.
And so I applied, and they called me like a couple days later, like, come on in, let's talk, and sat down and basically just talked about old video games with with some of the other testers, and then and then they called me back and said, all right, you're hired.
It was a
And
surprise also, yeah. A little bit. It seems easy one, yeah.
yeah, it seems easy
Mm-hmm.
uh, compared to like today.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like, but New World was a pretty small company at the time. I mean, I think they seemed bigger than they were, but they were probably only 40 people,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very much a family sort of group. So everybody was friends, and they really loved the idea of getting referrals from existing employees. So you saw a lot of people get their friends hired. I got a bunch of my friends hired.
Oh, I see.
And so the fact that I knew the one of the existing testers, and I knew there was a couple other people who did work there or had worked there in the past that I knew,
Mm-hmm.
and so that really helped too. And it was close. It was like 20 minutes drive.
Oh.
Which I don't know if that sounds close to you, but in LA, that's practically walking to work.
Yeah, it's not so long distance maybe. For us in Hungary also, yeah. The traffic is always a bad
Yeah,
thing, so if you can avoid it by a faster travel or something like that,
yeah. And
it's
LA,
always good.
LA is notorious for its traffic. Well deserved.
You live there also, or just work there, or
What's that?
you live there also and live nowadays also, or in Los Angeles, or
No, I live in a place called Moore Park,
oh, I
which
see.
is it's outside of Los Angeles. It's probably like if you're talking downtown LA, it's about maybe an hour.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's okay, yeah. There, one
Yeah,
hour.
yeah. I mean, I work from home, so who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah, because of the virus or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh. I see. And what was the first game maybe that inspired you by with your later developed games? What are the favorite types of
Yeah,
video
so
games for you. RPG maybe. I think.
yeah, I mean, I've always loved role playing games.
Mm.
I think it comes from my Dungeons and Dragons sort of
Mm.
background as a kid. But I really love storytelling,
Mm.
and as a storyteller, the idea of letting a player kind of create their own narrative within the confines of your story has always fascinated me. You know, and that includes like sort of the Dungeons and Dragons
Mm.
ideas where players they're in the world, they're not just
It's an
watching.
immersive one. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
through you
yeah.
into the monitor, something like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've always loved like strategy games
Mm.
and historical games and fantasy, and so as a developer, those have always been my sort of influences. Though when I was in junior high, so 13, 14, I had a Commodore 64, and I was always writing like text adventures, like Zork kind of games. Mostly because I didn't have the technical capacity to make something bigger or with graphics or anything like that.
But everything have to start somehow, and sometimes
Yeah, you gotta start
sometimes
somewhere.
on text. So, yeah.
Yeah, and in particular, there was this game for the Commodore 64 called Adventure Construction Set,
Mm.
and that game was the first, or at least one of the first, sort of actual game editors. You could think of it as almost a precursor to like Unity or Unreal or something like that, where you could create your own art, you could create your own little stories, you could make, and they were all role playing games.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a bit ahead of its time then, and it never really got super popular.
Mm-hmm.
But like if a game like that had come out now, it would have exploded. You know, everybody would have been making their own little ACS sort of adventures.
So it would be a great promise, but it's not fulfilled. Yeah.
Yeah,
Later,
yeah,
because.
and you know, I mean, it was great for the technology. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could create an adventure and then you could export it onto a disc and give it to your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You probably could have sold it. I don't know if the license probably wouldn't have let you.
I see.
But it was really fun. It was, and that was my first experience into game creation.
Mm-hmm. It's almost look like maybe nowadays, the modders, eh? Almost look like.
Yeah, yeah.
The, yeah.
Modder would be good. Like later on when I was in college and Wolfenstein came out, I did get a hold of some of their editors and was trying to make my own mods of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, did you know that the Wolfenstein 3D, the first game of the series, it would be started as an RPG? You
Yeah.
heard about it? It's quite strange. But after that, Heretic and Hexen released, and we can see that that way can be possible. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really
for
great.
sure.
And I saw you started earlier in quality assurance with Heroes of
Yeah.
Might and Magic 1 and 2 and Might and Magic 6. And what this kind of job for the video player normal people? What can you tell us
Yeah,
about
so
these experiences with the games as QA?
yeah, so basically your job is to piss off the developers.
Oh, I see.
And it's basically what you're trying to do as a tester is find problems in the game, and then so the developers can fix those before it goes out to the public.
It's even before the beta phase or the alpha phase, or
Yeah, it depends on the game. Most of the time, we at New World as testers, we get the game around beta. So somewhere between alpha and beta, when the game's getting closer to be finished. Particularly like Heroes. Well, Heroes 1, I didn't do the original PC release. I worked on the Macintosh port. So it was basically already done. I was just trying to find where it was broken compared to Macintosh. But the whole idea is that you play the same broken game day in, day out, 8, 12 hours a day for
I
5,
see.
6, 7 days a week, depending on what phase of development you're in.
Firstly, it seems promising. It's really interesting, and it's a dream of a job for some people. But
Yeah,
in the long run, it can be maybe annoying, or or you have can be a mood of disliking some parts of it because you go through a number of hundreds of times. Yeah, so
yeah, and it does get tedious like that, where it's just,
Mm-hmm.
you got to click on this button 800 times before it crashes,
I see.
or something like that, and you don't get to pick the games. It's not like I said, oh, I want to be a tester
Oh, I see.
on Heroes, or I want to be a tester on this. No, they say you're testing this game,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. So that part's a drag, but
So it's almost an
you still get to.
insider tester, right thing. It's not a beta testing for the public. It's an inside one, yeah.
Well, I mean, the games do get released for the public,
Oh, I
so
see.
so that's important. But yeah, you're not a beta test. You're an employee of the company, so you're not somebody outside of the company who gets. It's like, hey, I get to be a beta tester for whatever this release. I mean, back then, the idea of pre-releasing the game or early access or whatever that didn't exist.
Oh, I see. Yeah, of course. But
Yeah,
that was a good part in the old games, in the 90s maybe, that you can test the game before the release, and maybe they can kill the most of the bugs so before the
yeah,
release. But nowadays they almost look like sometimes they're waiting for the release, and after that, oh, we will patch it all the way. So
yeah, and
uh,
there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is, like, if you're an independent developer, you just don't have the resources
of
to
course.
hire a group of testers. So like I do a lot of my own testing on Aeolwyn's Legacy. There's a couple other guys who are on the Discord who do some testing for me. And then for larger companies, it's a matter of economics. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if the bug, like, they still have QA departments, and they hammer out most of the bugs, but sometimes it's a kind of an offshoot of we got to ship the game, but there's still bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just ship it and patch it. Back in those days, patches weren't that. There wasn't like today where there's 50 or 60 patches for a game.
Yeah.
Every time you open it, can't play it until it patches.
And mainly for the AA type of games, the most
Yeah,
budgeted
yeah, you
ones.
see
So
a
it's
lot of
strange.
updates for those.
Yeah.
And so especially with console games, you
Yes.
couldn't patch them ever.
Huh.
Back like Xbox and PlayStation. But nowadays, it's a lot easier to do, and so I think that players probably are getting used to it, especially with
Mhm.
ideas of like Steam Early Access and stuff
But
like that.
sometimes about the indie game developers, they sometimes I think release much lesser patches than the biggest budgeted games.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I
they
know
maybe
that.
can repair it more successful, and maybe they can update it more grateful. So I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe they are the better game developers sometimes. I don't know, but it
Yeah, well,
seems
it's
like
it's a
that
bit of a
way.
marketing thing too.
I see.
Like, well, let me like my demo that I put out for Aeolwyn's Legacy. Its purpose was just to, like, let people see what the game's going to be about, what it's get a little excited about it, maybe build some momentum like that. And it's got bugs in it too. It had for a long time combat wasn't working right, and I had no idea.
Mhm.
There was a crash bug in one of the levels that that's the way it goes.
Of course, at the start, but it will be way more better and better. so, so
Yeah,
that's the
yeah, and
point.
that's kind of the benefit. Like, I look at Minecraft as not necessarily an influence on the game itself, but an influence on the development cycle. Notch put out Minecraft years ago, and then for years
Yeah.
he kept updating it and adding features, and it still kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And and then he sold the company for $6 billion.
Yes.
So, so I think that's as far as development, that's kind of an idea that a path I'm trying to go down uh,
Of course.
with development of Aeolwyn's legacy.
And so you must know many members of the old classic NVC, Heroes of Might and Magic game developers, and also the 3DO publishers. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and can you tell us some interesting tidbits and bits and things about maybe some colleagues or friends, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
about John Wankanagam? Did you know him also, the creator of the King's
Yeah,
Bounty and
yeah.
Heroes of Might and Magic series, and also Might and Magic, of course.
Yeah, so one thing, I'm not sure how many people know this about John, but he was a race car driver.
Oh yeah, I heard something about it.
He and it wasn't just that he was like he bought fast cars and drove them on the streets. He drove actual race cars in actual like
So he was a
legitimate
driver, an exact driver.
Yeah, yeah, and he won. He won a lot.
That's
And,
great.
and he had the biggest office at New World, of course.
Maybe he could do a racing game.
I'm surprised he never did. I think he wanted to, but I don't know why he never did. His office was filled with trophies of all the races that he won.
Oh, congratulations for him.
And so that was always kind of an interesting thing that I thought was a little weird about like a nerdy software developer.
It was your other hobby or something like that beneath the video game developing. It was the second hobby with him with the racing with the cars.
Yeah. I mean, and he always had a fancy car. Like he drove a what was that? Dodge Viper.
Oh, that's great.
Which I mean, at the time it was a $80,000-$100,000 car.
Sometimes collecting one or another, something like that, or just one type they want to collect.
Well, he always as long as I was there, I think he only had two cars. He had the Viper, and then he had a really nice Mercedes.
Oh, I see. That's great.
Yeah. Let me see if I can think about some of the other wackiness. So there was here's a little quirky personality trait. We had this guy Ben who was the office manager, and he ended up being a producer and a tester and a level designer and a real close friend of John and Mark and some of the other long timers. And he had a weird he was a big stickler for rules and rules consistency. So
I see. Mm-hmm.
when New World expanded its offices, they added a second door to the kitchen. And so there was on the other side of those doors were a set of cubes where the Heroes of Might and Magic level designers were, and he was afraid that they would get disturbed by people walking back and forth through that door all the time, walking by their cubes. So he said, you guys can't use this door that we paid money to put in. Nobody can use the door. Not even the people who were right there, whose cubes were right there. So they had to walk all the way around the building to get to the kitchen when they could have just walked right through the door.
He should work in insurance or security companies.
Yeah, right.
That, yeah.
So that was pretty wacky.
But it was successful sometimes. Yeah, maybe sometimes needed, maybe not. Who knows? Yeah.
And so there was all sorts of different people. There was a guy, Gabriel Kroner. I don't know how you say his last name. He was probably, well, he was not. There was no probably about it. He was definitely the biggest Star Trek nerd in the company. I mean, he loved Star Trek so much that they filmed a documentary in the '90s called Trekkers. That was about like the biggest Star Trek nerds in the country. And I don't mean nerds disparagingly, because I love Star Trek too. And Gabriel was in the movie.
Oh, really? That's great.
Yeah, and so he and I always we talked all the time about Star Trek.
It
And
would be a dream come true, for fans. So
yeah,
cool.
right. And then
In which one?
yeah, and he made his own Star Trek movie
Oh, I see. Hmm.
back in those days, and there wasn't such a thing as a fan film in the '90s. I
Hmm.
mean, not really, not like it is today.
Hmm.
And then he ended up being in. He got a job in after he left New World. He got a job in the film industry, and he didn't. I don't think he directly worked on any Star Trek films, although he did Star Trek models that appeared in like Star Trek calendars and stuff. And I think the J.J. Abrams Star Trek model, the Enterprise model, was influenced pretty
Oh, really?
significantly to the model that he did.
Hmm. That's
So
really
yeah,
great.
he was kind of a quirky dude, but he was cool. I liked him a lot.
And they worked on Heroes 1 too, or?
He worked on. I know he worked on Might and Magic 9.
Right, Magic 9.
I don't remember if he did Heroes or if he did Might and Magic.
I see. Sometimes, the older Heroes games and also Might and Magic represent sometimes some sci-fi things, or, the
Uh-huh.
Kriegans and etc. So maybe in a surprise way they can add some Trekkie
Yeah,
thing.
and Star Trek. Well, there's
Yeah.
always Star Trek references
Yes.
in Might and Magic.
Sometimes. So
I can't
maybe.
think of any off the top of my head, but
Oh, I
I
see.
think like the idea of the Varn
Hmm.
and the cells. I think there was something about the cells and Varn, but I don't remember exactly. But there was always a Star Trek influence at the company. I mean, we never went and saw a Star Trek movie as a company, but they did take us to see the first Star Wars prequel movie.
Hmm. That's great. And you worked
Yeah,
on
it was a fun place to work.
and you worked on almost the biggest and maybe some of the fans the best Might and Magic games. Might and Magic 6, 7, 8, 9, and
Mhm.
you worked on different type of parts. Yeah, sometimes on audio, sometimes on lead designing, or something like
Uh-huh.
that. And what do you think that the main points for the great success for the games nowadays? Many type of games try to, share the same amount of
Mhm.
success that the Might and Magic games did in the past years, but they couldn't manage mainly. So, what do you think? What was the main part for the
That's
success?
kind of a hard question to answer. I think just because I think there was a combination of things that just
Hmm.
happened to collide exactly right. For Might and Magic 6, it was. I mean, it wasn't technologically groundbreaking, but the color palette was very bright and kind of, I think, accessible to
And
people.
it's really
Whereas,
variable. It's really many type of
yeah,
colors. Yeah. So.
yeah, and then there was something about the 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 gameplay that really appealed to people. The idea that it was sort of an open world before open worlds were really a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you could go anywhere in the world and do whatever you wanted. I mean, there's load time, so it wasn't seamless,
Hmm.
but I think that really hooked people on its exploration.
But maybe it
And
was one of the first type of games with Elder Scrolls games. So maybe that was the cause that many people
yeah,
liked
well,
it.
there were clearly other games in the past that had
Yeah,
done
but
this
what
sort of
not with this.
open world thing, but
Yeah, but not with this type of open world way. It's far
yeah,
more better
yeah,
of graphics and etc. So yeah.
yeah, and it wasn't the first uh, sort of 3D, like 2.5D
Mm-hmm.
first person role playing game. There was obviously there's Daggerfall came before it.
Daggerfall, of course, yeah, the other type.
Yeah, and Wizardry was another one. But I think that the execution of Might and Magic 6 really helped it. Like, I mean, Daggerfall got great reviews, but everybody said this is the buggiest game in history
Yeah.
at the time. And you know, Might and Magic was not a buggy game hardly at all. It was, you know, we found. I'd like to take credit for that a little bit. We found most of the bad bugs.
Yes, it was really great.
And yeah, I think those are probably the main elements.
And maybe also the optimization. Yeah, it was not. You know, it's not. It was a groundbreaking game on the system requirements.
Yeah,
you can.
Yeah, and that was a big thing that John always tried to emphasize was that he wanted the game to run well on lower level systems. So he never chased the cutting edge of software development. Like I think Bethesda always kind of did, and that was something you saw with Daggerfall and Morrowind and stuff. But John and Might and Magic were happy to just kind of lay back and say, we're going to make a game that's not so demanding graphically, so a wider variety of systems can play it.
Yeah, and wider audience can
can live it. I think that might be why it was more popular in Europe than a lot of the other types of role playing games. At the time, I don't know if it's so much today, but at the time, Europe's computer technology lagged behind the United States, and so having a game that people could play that was brand new, I think really had an effect on the players. Because nowadays, most of the people who still talk about Might and Magic and play Might and Magic are in Europe.
Yes. Maybe that would be a cause. I was really surprised that in the USA, not so many fans there, as I heard, but in Europe and also in Asia and Russia and other countries, it's also big pages, their own fan pages for Heroes, and also for Might and Magic games. Yeah. So it was really great to see that, but it was strange for me, for the USA, that it's so less fans there. But yeah,
like most of the time, like if I talk to people, like even gamers who are, I run into friends or not old coworkers, but people I meet on the street or whatever, they say, "Oh, you used to make video games? What games did you work on?" And if I say Might and Magic, they'll say, "What's that?" If I say Metal and Modern, then they go, "Ooh, oh yeah, I love that game." So that's just, I think, a difference in taste between
Europe is more conservative sometimes in a way. Yeah, if you can say so, or more strategic, and more playful with RPG. But RPGs nowadays are famous in USA too. But maybe in Europe they feel better way for the classical, RPGs.
There's not a lot of old school sort of RPGs that are coming out of America now.
Yes.
I mean, there's
sadly for me, but
there's Fallout now, but and Bard's Tale and Wasteland, but
yes, Pirates of Eternity,
most of the new stuff,
Divinity.
Most of the old kind of stuff is coming out of Czech Republic, or somewhere in Eastern Europe.
And also, if I know well about the developers of MVC, there were many British and Scottish one, remember, in the team, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
No, not just American one.
You mean on Might and Magic teams?
Yeah, and also maybe in the Heroes team. I don't know. I heard that there are some Scottish and English.
Like modern developers?
No, in the New World company.
I'm trying to remember now, and I don't remember any specifically anybody who had come over from Scotland or England.
Or maybe replacing it with Bethesda or something like that. I don't know.
Well, most of the developers probably had ancestry in the UK. I know I've got some out there.
Oh, I see.
But there were the only one that really sticks out from Scotland was when I was at EA. We had a Scottish company that were helping us out, and they came over for months.
Mm-hmm.
But not that I remember at New World.
I see. And after, there were other great Heroes games. Of course, Heroes 3 was the most fan favorite. What is your opinion about it? And what do you think is the what were the main points that caused the bigger, maybe more bigger success for the Heroes games?
I think that Heroes 3 was probably the pinnacle of the New World Heroes games. It was the most sophisticated graphically. Like it wasn't 3D or anything, but the graphics were a lot more realistic. The gameplay started getting a little bit more sophisticated instead of just a couple heroes with stats, and then you go hire the best monsters you can find and then fight. It got a little more sophisticated strategically in the combat.
Mm-hmm.
And then Heroes 4, when Heroes 4 came in, that was at the same time that 3DO started getting into trouble financially. And so things were rushed.
But it was strange because, also Heroes 4 was a great success, if I know well. And they crashed. Why? Maybe the many expansions, or something like that.
So 3DO was having a lot of problems with sort of the shovelware concept. And they were trying, I think what Tripp was trying to do was replicate the success that he had at EA with Madden, where there was a new Madden out every year, and so EA could count on that as consistent revenue.
Oh, I see.
And so he wanted to try to do the same thing with the Might and Magic brand and the Armyman brand, which were two of the biggest brands at 3DO at the time. And so by breathing down the team's necks to get these releases out, they had to cut corners, and it was either corners in features or corners in quality. And they didn't want to invest in what the way EA put money into.
Oh, I see. It's strange because nowadays EA is the opposite. Sometimes for the video game players, they really hate it. The EA-like publishers nowadays. So nowadays they don't put so much money. Sometimes enough money in a project. But in the older times, it was almost the opposite. It seems now. So it's strange for me. Yeah. Just marketing it. Something like that.
It's always been it's always been economic. So you want to put as little money into the game as possible, so you can get as much money back out. And that's always been, even when I was at EA, they actually put a lot of money into the Medal of Honor games.
Yes, and those were really good games. Yeah.
But that was EA's problem back then was a lot different. They were a little too arrogant at the time.
I don't know. You know about about Undying game in 2001. EA released it. It was a critically really great great success, and also the video gamers have it's pointed it a classic nowadays, and because they didn't market it well in the marketplaces of the whole of the world, no market budget or just a little bit, and because of that many video game players didn't hear about anything about this game.
Yeah, it's funny.
And because of that, the sequel never came out. So
it's funny that you mentioned Undying, because Undying was done by I think it was Westwood Studios at the time, which became EALA.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
and they had I played it and I loved it,
me too.
But yeah, not a lot of people know about that game. And when I started at EALA, there were big, huge Undying posters all over the place. a lot of developers still work there, and
I really liked it also. I really want
yeah,
a
but
sequel,
you're right.
but
It was the same. Like, EA only has a finite number of marketing dollars, so they have to pick and choose where they put it.
I see. And the marketing of the Might and Magic games, the Heroes games, was how was going? It was harder than nowadays, or easier in that time, in the 90s.
Well, I would say it's easier
Yeah,
back then because I didn't have anything to do with
I see.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
although there was a big marketing fiasco.
I see.
A big learning lesson for me was they were coming to me asking about details about the game and the storyline and all this stuff, and I said, okay, well, here, just so, and I thought they wanted to know for their own knowledge so that they could create marketing materials. So I sent them the game design document, and I specifically said in the email when I sent it to them, this is not for public release. And they released the entire thing to the public.
Oh, I see. That's great.
Oh man, was I mad. But I learned a very valuable lesson that as a developer, if you've got a marketing department, you got to kind of treat them as the leak to the world. So only give them the stuff that you want the world to know. If there's a big secret twist in the game, don't.
Oh, no, spoil it.
Don't tell them.
Yeah. Many films and movies done this way on the trailers. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after the Heroes 3, Heroes 4 release, and also Might and Magic 9, and many fans don't quite like those games because they feel it's moved to a new, different path. But many fans quite like too because they like the freshness of these two games, and also that they are really colorful. As you said that, Heroes 1 and 2 and Might and Magic 6 was colorful, but maybe Heroes 4 and Might and Magic 9 the most. So. But it was really great because it's more livable, I think, so, with the word of the games. So many fans like it, many fans not. What is your opinion about it? That can a part of Heroes or Might and Magic games in the series can debate the fans? So
yeah, well, games have to evolve.
Of course.
That's the only. We got when Might and Magic 8 came out. It was
it was a bit different also.
They were very critical of it because it was looking so dated by then.
The graphics or what?
Yeah, graphically. I mean, Half-Life had come out, and
I see.
And and Half-Life really set a new bar for.
It was the same engine, so in 6 and 7 and 8, it was the same. Almost.
Yeah, it was,
or just an updated one, something like that.
Yeah, and so we had to make the leap to 3D. And unfortunately, in making that leap, that was when 3DO started really running into the money issues.
I see.
And
in 2000 or sometimes, in 2000 or 2000.
Yeah, it was right around 2000, 2001, I guess. And the game engine that we picked was a good choice economically.
I see.
But wasn't necessarily ready for the kind of game we wanted to make with it. And that goes for we bought it originally for Legends of Might and Magic, and then we were also going to use it for Might and Magic 9. And there was a lot of technical problems with what we wanted to do with Legends, which originally was a like a first-person Diablo kind of party-based multiplayer role-playing game.
Oh, so first it was multiplayer.
Yeah, and the biggest issue with doing that with LithTech was that LithTech couldn't support multiplayer games being in separate rooms. So what that meant was you couldn't have a player inside a dungeon and another player inside or outside of the dungeon at the store.
Uh-huh.
And it was a pretty big technical hurdle at the time, and I think that we probably could have designed around it to still maintain the sort of RPG-ness of it, where like, you know, everybody is at the store and they go to the world, or they go like in town
I
essentially,
see.
do all their shopping and do all that, and then they go to the dungeons and start the dungeon.
But it has some audience, if I remember right. It was quite a success, if I remember, where many fans tried it and played it as with the demo. I played it once, I think. I remember.
Yeah, well, when it turned into Fantasy Counter-Strike, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a critical success. It's probably kind of a sleeper hit now, but at the time, 3DO was expecting a larger revenue from it, and they didn't get it.
It's released in 2001 or something.
And for Might and Magic, for Might and Magic 9, that meant, you know, it Legends lingered so long in production that Might and Magic Might and Magic 9 couldn't get started in earnest because all of the technical knowledge and developers and level designers were still on Legends. So Might and Magic 9 got a slow start because of that, and definitely hindered its development cycle.
It's almost a shared development between 2 or 3 games with the same company.
I was really bummed out for both products, because when Legends started, I had just gotten this promotion to they called it assistant designer, which would have been you know, it's the first step towards being a lead designer and getting your own game. And then all these technical issues happened, and they changed the design, and I went back to basically being a level designer for Legends, and then I moved over to Might and Magic 9, and then just a lot of people left. Some people changed jobs or changed responsibilities within the company, and then I was left with the responsibility of Might and Magic 9. And Legends was still dragging on. And then I had to start yelling, like, I need these people. You need to finish this game. I need these guys.
But it was a great idea. It could be a really great game if maybe later a sequel or something like that can happen. So I think. But nowadays there are many, you know, medieval type and fantasy type of game like that. So sometimes from indie.
I don't think there's any sort of first-person party-based role-playing games that are not MMOs.
Yeah, maybe.
I still don't think anybody's done the sort of first-person Diablo kind of concept.
Oh no, it's yeah, sadly not. But there are some medieval ones, you know, Mountain Blade, and then can I say more? Yeah. But the exact same type, no. But I think nowadays it could be a great success, but who knows? Somebody develop maybe some kind of game. We'll see. And also there was a Crusader of Might and Magic. You didn't work on that, yeah?
No. The only of Might and Magics that New World did were Heroes, then the Dragonbone staff sort of King's Bounty copy.
Yeah.
So Crusaders, we didn't do Crusaders, we didn't do Warriors, we didn't do Dark Messiah, we didn't do. There was a lot of spin-offs that 3DO did to kind of capitalize on the name, and we didn't like those actually at the time because we thought they were kind of these low quality kind of cash cows, and which kind of is a drag for the guys who made those, because some of them were pretty fun, and I don't remember which one I played. I think it was Crusaders that I really enjoyed it. It was a first person fantasy kind of game. It wasn't really a role playing game, but it was like a first person shooter, but fantasy.
I think Dark Messiah. I think if you think about it. I think because it was an Half-Life like FPS, but fantasy elements, the RPG, but
Yeah.
just a little. Crusader was a TPS, so a third phase.
Oh, was it? So it
Yeah.
must have been.
Yes,
Must not
yes.
have been Crusaders if it was.
Yeah.
Third.
So I think it was Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. It had could be a sequel in 2015, but because of Heroes 7 was not a great success, they shut it down. Also shut Might and Magic 11 down.
Oh,
Sadly,
the-
but that could be really great because it would have a much greater budget. One of the developers told me about it.
Yeah.
That it would be more great and better graphics, etc. Also Dark Messiah 2. But sadly they didn't focus on budget. You know, the main bad thing, they said that with the Ubisoft games from Hero 6, 7 and also Might and Magic 10 didn't have the basic amount of budget almost, so
Yeah.
to be a good game, so it's not a great thing. Heroes 5 had a bigger budget, but the other ones not almost, so it's a bad decision, I think, but who knows. The marketing and the finance part maybe knows better. I don't
Yeah.
You know that 3DO started to work on Heroes 5 in 2003 or 2, I don't know now, but sadly the 3DO bankrupted and they didn't release it, maybe in beta phase 2, so but there would be a Heroes 5, and maybe they, I don't know, there was an idea about Might and Magic 10, your Might and Magic 10.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think.
I had a pretty extensive design document based on Might and Magic 10, which unfortunately is lost to time because
Oh, I see.
I didn't take it with me when I left 3DO.
Oh, I see. But there were plans about it.
Yeah, and it was I wasn't expecting a lot of technological advancement. You know, hopefully more time and more budget. But I thought it had a pretty cool story.
I see, but I think the one of the main point is the story for an RPG. So
Yeah.
it is lacking in every manner. It's something in a way with the story. Maybe the whole game can be failing. So it's really important, and yeah, maybe you can manage to evolve it in Aeolwyn Legacy. Something like
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't remember a lot of the nitty gritty details of the story anymore, but
we'll see later.
yeah.
But after those type of strategies and mainly RPG games, you worked on the Medal of Honor games from 2002 and between 2002 and 2004. Why do you choose the side part to another type of games? Do you like the FPS games also, the first-person shooters, or?
Yeah. So I mean, I've always liked the first-person shooter games, but you know, there was a couple things that really attracted me to Medal of Honor, which was you know, the I don't know if you ever played Allied Assault, but
yes. That was the first, yeah, if I remember.
Yeah, it was the storming of Normandy that really got me hooked on what a new game could do.
Yes, it was really a great game.
And it was like, I mean, that blew me away. It was like getting thrown right in the middle of Saving Private Ryan.
Yes. Almost from the movie. You can be in the movie, something like that.
Yeah, and you know, EA. When I was 13 or 14, I was playing games like Bard's Tale, and I was playing Adventure Construction Set was another one, and Wasteland, and I know those are Interplay games, but in my mind back then, those were all EA games. And I subscribed to the EA newsletter, and they talked about how much fun they had in the office. And I want to work there one day. So you know, getting a job at EA was a bit of a childhood dream for me.
I see.
And another great part about it was that a lot of the New World computing developers let when they were let go from New World, all moved to EA to work on these Medal of Honor games.
Oh, really?
So it was almost like walking back into New World with all my friends.
So some
Many
familiar faces there.
Yeah. I mean, they were all on. They put me on the console products, and most of the New World guys were on the PC games.
I see. But it's a different genre, you know. But how they can manage to do that way? That's really cool and good way. After strategy and fantasy games. So.
If you're a game developer and a gamer, I think that if you're a good game developer, you can switch between genres and not struggle too much. Obviously, role-playing games are my first love, and those are the games that I'm always going to want to make. But it was still good to do the first-person shooter because it's still storytelling and the level design aspects, because that's what I was doing.
And also the characters, sometimes.
Yeah, and it's still the same ideas of how do you guide a player, how do you where are the big moments, and I actually learned a lot of lessons at EA that I still use today on Aeolwyn's Legacy.
Yeah, it's really strange because it's not the exact same time, but of course it's a first person. So
yeah, I mean they have that in common.
Yes, but that sounds really great for me. I liked also the Wolfenstein and Aeolwyn, or the first maybe 2 Call of Duty and maybe the 4, but after that I don't quite like it, sadly. But I heard that maybe a new Medal of Honor game may be announced. There was a gossip, but we know. Who knows?
I think there is one in development.
I see.
I still have some friends there. Actually, I was hit up recently by on my Discord by an old New World guy
really?
who went to EA, and he's still there.
That's
so he's
great.
probably working on the new Medal of Honor.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, he didn't tell me what product he was working on.
So it's in good hands.
Yeah.
That's great. And also nowadays you develop Aeolwyn's Legacy. It's a new brand game, with a new word, game word.
Yeah.
With the essence on the spiritual successing of the spiritual sequel for the Might and Magic classic games. And what drew you to start the development of the game? What was your main goals about the game? And
so I've tried to avoid the term spiritual successor, just because I want I still want Aeolwyn's Legacy to kind of stand.
So it's yes.
But it's a bit of semantics. Aeolwyn's Legacy wears its influences on its sleeve. It really its spiritual successor fits.
It's halfly, maybe we can say so, yeah.
Yeah, halfly. I mean, like anybody who plays it will say, "Oh, yeah, this does feel like a Might and Magic." I still try to keep things new and fresh in terms of how it plays and things like that. But there's no getting around that a developer on Might and Magic making a role-playing game is going to be influenced by Might and Magic.
Of course.
Yeah. There's as far as like what are my goals with it. Personally, it's about making a fun role-playing game, and I love role-playing games. So why not make the kind of game that I really want to make? And then there's a bit of apology in there for Might and Magic 9. I still feel kind of responsible for killing Might and Magic.
No.
People say no, it's not. It was 3DO, but there were still some ideas that I had that players didn't like or caused bugs that made people stop playing. And we still did our best. We did our best with the time we were given.
When did you start the development? Last year or something like that?
It's been about a little over 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that includes, like, I started it as a top-down sort of retro role-playing game along the lines of like Ultima 4 or Questron or Legacy of the Ancients, if you've ever played those really old games. Because I love those games and I kind of want to play another one.
Of course.
But you know, so I spent about 6 or 7 or 8 months on this sort of top-down 2D version, and I got in all the game mechanics, the combat system, rudimentary combat systems, skills, and basically all the core mechanics of what would be a role-playing game.
I really like, the design of it, almost with the interface and everything. It's really colorful, but sometimes more a little darker tone, wherever you go, of course. And also, it can be, visually, it's really easy to outsee the things, to handle the interface and everything. So it's really great, I think, for newcomers as well, and also for the fans of the type of the game. So.
Yeah. So and after playing the demo, and I sent it to a few people, some old New Worlders and some other friends I had, and they just came back and said, this game's not all that fun. Like, we see kind of, and one of these guys, this guy Irakli, who works with Longslide Studios, he came back and said, why don't you make a 3D? Do like this, and okay, let me see. and I spent a little time putting it into 3D, and suddenly the game was fun. It was fun to just run around the world and talk to people, and so I was like, well, this is it. This is what the game should be.
The movement mode is not the same, as it was it in all the Might and Magic games. Yeah, it's a little bit more, if I can say so, active or faster. The movement.
Yeah, I think it's got more first-person shooter influence than.
But that's great. I quite like it.
Yeah, and like Might Magic 9 kind of was leaning in that direction. But yeah, this one is a lot more Skyrim or Fallout influenced than those games were. And that's not to say that that's the only choice you have, because I did put in a what I'm calling the classic controller.
Oh, I see.
Scheme. So you can go back, and it's very similar. The classic control scheme is very similar to the Might and Magic 6 control scheme. So you can play it that way. There's turn-based it's very rudimentary sort of turn-based combat right now. But so you can play it in that more slowly methodical kind of way.
It's a little bit faster, if we can say so.
Yeah.
That's really great, I think, because the newcomers can be like it more, because there are people sadly who don't like the slow RPGs, and also the fans of the old Might and Magic games. I think we'll see many familiar things, places, maybe even some mentions.
Yeah, and I do have in my mind, I wanted to also add in a more tactical sort of turn-based combat.
So maybe it will change?
Yeah, more influenced like by XCOM than anything else.
I see.
And just because I love those games, I love that tactical combat.
So maybe it can be changed to a real...
Yeah, and that may be another option. I mean, it's sort of planned in my head, and it's scheduled for down the road. But I think that also would be a cool...
Yeah, it is. Pirates of Eternity 2 did in this way. It's a Baldur's Gate-like game, and they had put in a patch the possibility to play with turn-based mode. So not the mode as Baldur's Gate mode, but turn-based that you can choose. So it's quite great.
I can patch it whenever I want. I can add in whatever feature I feel like. That's the great thing about being an indie developer.
Yes.
It's also a bit of a curse if you go too crazy with it. But
Yeah. And how big the development team is, and also who are the great main members? Maybe if we can talk about them.
So you're looking at the main development team right now. It's I would say it's 90% just me.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
great.
there's a few helpers like a, a couple guys, Cybernathi from Discord and Iraqi also, and a couple other people have been helping with testing. Um, I do have I did have a level design contest recently on my Discord where uh, basically the contest was design a paper level and the best one gets that level made in the game.
Mhm.
And this guy Logi won that contest, and I'm planning to have more of those in the future. I don't have any. I don't need to make levels right now, so uh, there's not a contest underway. But that's another idea
Oh, I see. Hmm.
to get people involved in the game and also save a little bit of work on myself. And then of course I've got Paul is writing some tracks for me, some music tracks,
Paul
and I've got
Romero, that's great.
yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I heard a sample of it last week, and
You know, he worked on Might and Magic 6 too, and also there are really great teams nowadays.
yeah. I've always really liked the music for Might and Magic 6 because
Yes.
it leaned heavily on like old classical music. So
Yes, yes.
you'll hear some like Wagner influences, or you'll hear a theme from Gustav Holst or something like that.
And also
And
I have a
I
really
really
great
liked
mood.
that.
A really great mood for the places in the game also. So yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
great. But Paul's a genius, so not.
yeah. Paul's
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that there's an entire orchestra for Heroes 3 is a testament to his brilliance as a composer.
Of course, yeah, Heroes Orchestra. Yeah, it's beautiful. I heard some concerts on YouTube with it, and
Yeah, yeah, me
also,
too.
yeah. My Hungarian friend, the leader of the Hungarian Heroes fan page, traveled there to hear it live. So I
Yeah.
sadly I couldn't at that time, but I was there in 3 years ago at Wrocław in Poland, and we heard the first live Heroes Orchestra in another with another concert orchestra. But it was really great. Ooh, well, it's a
That's gotta be
lifetime event.
magical.
It was the first such of a concert in ever. So with heroes. But maybe I hope later there will be some items teams in it too. You know, the snow
Yeah,
team or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
it
I
was
agree
really
with that.
great.
I'd love to hear that.
And it's a mixture of financing the game with the Kickstarter, also with patrons, or how do you do that?
Um,
Solve that?
so so right now I mean, I'm basically funding it out of my own pocket for the most part. If you download the demo on itch.io, there is a donation page. Like right now, the demo's free, but you can donate to the project uh,
Yeah, that's
to
great.
help it get along.
Maybe I will do later, I think.
Yeah, yeah. There's also a donate page somewhere on the Discord, um, and on the website on uh, aeolwynslegacy.com or dungeonbite.com. There's merchandise now, so you can buy T-shirts
Oh,
and
that's great.
hoodies and beanies and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
so that I tried to keep the prices on those as close to cost as possible, and then have just a little bit extra on top
Mm-hmm.
that goes towards the development of the game. I have toyed with the idea of a Patreon or a Kickstarter, but I think I need to build a little bit more momentum
Mm-hmm.
in the community before I start opening stuff like that up.
I see. And you're using the Unity engine, yeah? If I remember
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
What type of it? Because there are six or so, I don't know now the freshest one, but
Yeah, so right now I'm using 2019.4.
oh,
Um, and I avoid upgrading Unity as much as possible because you never know what sort of new bugs it's going to introduce.
Oh, I see.
But sometimes if I have to, I have to.
Hmm.
But we'll see.
Do you know that Might and Magic 10 Legacy, the last one in 2013, if I remember well,
Hmm.
uses the same Unity engine, but it was really buggy sometimes. Maybe the budget was almost, of course, lesser sadly than the games before, but sometimes it feels as a player that sometimes it feels that way that it's hard to develop on it. So,
Yeah,
so it's
I didn't know my Magic X Legacy
yeah,
used
Unity.
Unity,
I
but
don't know which version.
you
I
know
don't know, but maybe a lower one. But
it's real easy to get off track with it.
I see. Hmm.
You know, it's what that's one of the problems that I'm facing right now is that I've used a lot of stuff from the asset store,
Hmm.
and that it's causing bugs.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh.
And I mean, but that's kind of the curse of an indie developer right there.
Uh-huh. But it
Uh,
seems far better and prettier than now
yeah,
than Might and
it
Magic
works.
10. So.
It works a lot.
Hmm.
I think a lot better than it did back then.
Hmm.
But I've used it for a long time
Oh, I see. Hmm.
now, so that helps too.
So you knew it in and out, something like that.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I did a stint at a education company that was making
Oh, I see. Hmm.
educational sort of scenarios for STEM learning, and we used Unity, and it was the same thing like I am now. I was a one man shop,
Oh, I see.
and they hired me to design and do scenarios for their they called it the small lab system. So it was actually a really cool sort of thing. They used motion capture cameras and these little wands to bring students into the environment to do
Huh.
experiments and stuff
Uh-huh.
that you can't do in real life. Like
Hmm.
you could be on Mars and swing a baseball and you'd see how the baseball travels and falls, and they had another system that used the Xbox Connect camera. So
Uh-huh.
your whole body is like we had a scenario where you were a bicycle and you're doing this to as the gear, and then if you wanted a big gear, I don't know if you can see my camera. I'm
Huh.
using my arms.
That's really
You'd spin
great.
your arms around. So it was really cool, but then the grant ran out, and
Oh, I
and that was
see.
the end of it.
Hmm. And how? What can you tell us about the working of a designer? You mainly design things in these games, and what can be the pros, and the cons about designing a game? What's the hardest part? The easiest part? What's you love the most in this work?
Yeah,
Uh,
so for me, I think the hardest part nowadays is surprisingly is designing the levels.
mm-hmm.
Like, I still do it the way I did the old days on paper.
Hmm.
And sometimes it comes out and a level comes completely built, and sometimes I'm like, what? How should this level look? And then sit there and think about it,
Hmm.
and that was one of the reasons why I had the level design contest was I had just done like 5 levels in a row. I
Oh, I
was
see.
like, I don't want to do another level right now, and so I held this contest, and the level that came out great.
Eh.
You know, and besides that, the hard part for me is fixing like fixing other people's bugs, which is
Hmm.
another issue with third party assets. I mean, and they're a good thing for a developer like me who's I've still got limited amount of time if I don't want to work on this game for the next 15 years. So I need a conversation system. I could write one, but that would take 3 months out of my time where I could
Hmm.
be
Hmm.
putting in game assets or creating quests or something.
It would be stall
So
time for another
yeah, so
part
I
of
buy
the
one.
game. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
And one of the things that has been a real pain in my side is the is the inventory system, which is it's like Might and Magic Six's grid based inventory system.
Hmm.
other games have used it. It's not exclusive to Might and Magic, but it's been super buggy,
Really?
and finding ways to like make it work within my game has always been trouble, and the developer stopped supporting it. So I have to basically I've rewritten probably half of it.
Oh, I see.
You know, but that's what you got to do with as a third party developer if you don't want to spend the rest of your life making a game.
And about the weapon system, I didn't ask about it. Weapon and spell system. How do you want to manage it in the game?
You mean like inventory wise, like equipping
And
weapons?
also on the types and everything, yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's going to be a very basic, very common sort of. It's going to be fantasy weapons and all different varieties that you need different skills to use. So like,
and you must buy the
sword
skills.
skill, you'll have blunt object skills, you'll have
I see.
spear stuff.
And you must buy it also later on in the game to buy the skills, as the old Might and Magic to use it, or you just level it and I see.
No. It's right now it's like Might and Magic where you got to find trainers and learn the skills. The skill system, I'm still trying to think about if I want to keep it that way or if I want to kind of change it to more of like a branching skill system, or even a percentage-based skill system like what Fallout or Wasteland would use. Still, it works the way it is now, so I probably won't change it, but
of course.
But it's sometimes kind of toying around within my head.
And we will get updates generally in a month, or I don't know what will be the process, maybe.
Yeah, I would like to do monthly updates, but it depends on what I'm working on. Like if I'm working on chapter 1, I don't think I'll have all of chapter 1 finished in a month.
Oh, I see.
So that'll probably end up being like, there'll be smaller bug fix sort of updates that'll happen more regularly, and they won't be consistent like one a month, but it might be like 3 in 1 month, and then 1 in another month, and then none in the following month. It just depends on how the bugs go and what needs to be fixed.
And what can be the final release of the game? Can be. We can next year, something like that. Next year, after that.
Well, I'm hoping to release. Like I haven't even been able to start the chapter 1. So the game is split up into 6 chapters.
Oh.
And that's each chapter will be released when they're done. So right now I'm working on. I call it the demo, but it's chapter 0. So it's the prologue.
The tutorial or something like that.
Yeah, and then the next chapter, chapter 1, will come out hopefully sometime early next year. And then after that, chapter 2 will come out. Hopefully sooner than that, depending on the momentum I get. Because as I complete the features of the game, I can spend more time on the content of the game.
I see.
So, yeah, so that'll be.
And which is the fastest?
It'll make it go faster.
Which is the faster? You making content or the features? Making the features or the content?
Well, I can't say making the content because content does take a long time. Features in themselves I think are quicker, but there's lots of features that I have to do, and some of these are like behind the scenes where the players won't see it directly. So they're like features are small, but there's a lot of them. So they're small, but they go faster. And then if there's big bugs that these features present, like the memory issues that I'm running into right now that I've got to fix, those can take a lot longer than stuff, and they're not all that much fun to work on. Like I've spent a week on this memory issue, and I feel like I've been wasting my time because nothing that I've done is going to end up in the game, but it's stuff that you have to do to figure out where the problem is and where to to focus the fix. And the benefit of this issue, the memory issue I'm working on, is one of the fixes that I'm probably going to implement will down the road allow support for at least third party level modders.
Mm-hmm.
So I will hopefully be able to support other people making their own levels for the game.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a nice little side.
So maybe modding will add later to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm still thinking about how to do that because, like, if somebody wanted to create their own game or their own
that's great.
Like their own series of quests, because of the nature of some of the third party, like the dialogue system that I was talking about, I can't release that to the public as an editor.
Mm-hmm.
So how would without that dialogue editor, how would people be able to make quests? They might be able to hack into the dialogue database. I don't know. Or they could buy it. They could buy their own version of it, and maybe they use that to make their own quests.
That's great. I don't know. Do you know about Neverwinter Nights? Maybe you heard about it. It had a great modding fan base.
So. modding really, even though like Might and Magic 6 and Might and Magic 7 and Might and Magic 9, we didn't support modding in any way. Players still found a way to do it. There's that.
And for Heroes, there was map editor, so there was, and campaign editor, so yeah.
Yeah. And I seem to remember watching a video of a guy who created his own Might and Magic level editor where you could create levels like inside the game.
It's almost looked like a matrix in a matrix, something like that.
Yeah, which is, I mean, we would have killed to have something like that back then.
That's great. Maybe you should hire him, Yeah, it's great. And what do you think that nowadays, many gamers didn't quite like the bigger publishers because they publish the games too way early, and the AAA++ games now is much shorter than the old days, or much more expensive than should be. So, and there are many bugs, etc. What do you think that the disadvantages and advantages for both way of making game, indie and the AAA side of the games?
Yeah, so games are expensive now. The bar for visual quality is really, really high, and we didn't have it that high back then. So teams are larger, games are more sophisticated. So there's more designers, there's more engineers. So they're going to be more expensive, more expensive to make. I mean, and I mean, obviously tools like Unity and stuff open that up to a little to be able to do higher quality games on a budget. But when you're hitting the very, triple A sort of games, they're probably hundreds of millions of dollars to make. Whereas like, Might and Magic might have cost $3 million. Might and Magic 9 to make. So it's way more expensive, and the time budgets are shortened, or they don't want to make them longer, I guess I should say. And so they've got to find ways to get them out sooner so they can start earning revenue on them, and shortening the development so that they don't spend all their time making one game. And unfortunately, the players pay the price for that.
Yes, sadly.
And one thing that PC gamer or PC developers and console developers are seeing now is the success of the mobile concepts of microtransactions.
Yeah, so
and
Fortnite
stuff like that.
mainly.
And that's really frustrating for PC gamers because we've already paid our $50 for this game, and now you want us to pay more on top of that.
Also,
so
the short DLCs,
that's very insulting to the gamer when phone games can get away with that because they don't charge that much for their games.
Yes, yes. Sometimes
They're charging
money
two,
free.
three, $4,
Or
and
free.
then they add on the microtransactions.
Mm.
But when you're paying 10 times that cost, that's just I think it's disrespectful to gamers.
Yes, yes.
And we're not going to do that. We're the only thing that Aeolwyn's legacy is going to do is have a sliding scale of the cost. So right now the demo is free. Once Chapter 1 is put in, I'll probably charge a few dollars for that. As content gets more filled, the cost of the game will go higher.
Well, how the game will be bigger and bigger.
I'm not going to be charging $50 for the game.
Uh-huh.
Probably, I think I'll probably peak out at like $15
for the whole game. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For the whole game, for once the game's complete. And I'm not going to charge people who've already bought the game. So and this doesn't count the demo, right? So if you pay for Chapter 1 at $3, say, or whatever the cost is, then you get everything else for free.
Oh, that's great. It almost look like Kickstarter, but way more better.
Yeah, and hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me, where everybody buys Chapter 1 and then
yeah.
then I don't have the money to develop the rest of the chapters. But we'll see. Hopefully that works.
I think I will support the
There's not ever going to be microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
There's not. I'm not going to do that. It's just.
And DLC, something like that. DLC, yeah. Or maybe a sequel, or a spin-off in this new world. Maybe a strategy or something like that, or in mind, or I don't know.
Maybe what I'll do is say, if you pay me, I'll make a new quest, but I'm not going to charge you for a quest I've already made.
Oh, I see. Yeah. If you pay more, you will have 2 more quests, yeah, something like that, yeah. Or 2 characters. You are in it, something like that.
Yeah. I'll have a win button for $50. You push a button in the game.
Oh yeah. And really, you didn't think about I don't know, about it, but in Heroes 3 and in its expansions, many of the New World competing team are in it as a hero portrait. Also Paul. So
Yeah.
it was really great. And Greg, maybe, or not Greg, Mulek, if I remember. Yeah, Mulek, Paul, and some more. I don't know the whole.
Yeah.
Maybe you think about that in a portrait way, or a 3D character in the game.
Yeah, I have thought about
or you will be in it, or something like that.
The player portrait. Maybe. We'll see.
You will be the evil main wizard or something.
Yeah, I'll be the bad guy.
Yeah. Which is quite... sometimes it's a really great hint, about the developer, something like that.
Yeah.
And for last question, what can you recommend and advising for young guys, girls or boys who want to be a designer, or the audio maker or something like that, a game developer today?
My instinctive first advice is don't make games. It's still really rough industry. You'll have you might be able to spend your entire career as a game developer, but the chances are against it. A lot of developers get laid off fairly regularly, and then they got to go find other jobs. And so it's very volatile in that sense. One thing, one bit of advice my mom gave me when I was a kid and wanted to be a musician is chase your dream, but have something to fall back on.
I see.
And I think software developers probably have that same
for safety.
Safety, yeah. But besides the downsides, if you're serious about getting into the industry, learn how to do it. And I don't mean just like go to school, which is great. Definitely go to school and learn coding,
the basics.
art,
Yeah.
Yeah, learn. But if you want to make a game, make a game. The technology exists out there that you and either you by yourself or you through your friends can get together, learn how to use Unity, learn how to use Unreal, and just make a game.
Unreal may be free, yeah? Unreal 3 or 4 may be free, if I remember well, but
Yeah,
now
yeah.
and there's
Unity's free. Unreal is
Unity too.
free,
Yeah.
and and I mean, why not? If Unity had existed when I was 14, I would have been making games with it. So
maybe Might and Magic 6 would would be made
yeah,
by it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, I think about, man, if I would have done, I could be rich now.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't know if that'll help you get a job
Hmm.
in a company. I mean, if as a hiring manager, I would want to see that. I'd want to see people who are not just wanting to be a developer, but chasing their dream by saying, "I'm going to be a developer, whether somebody hires me or not."
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and and I've always been kind of friendly to that sort of attitude. I've had a lot of you might say interns,
Hmm.
people who've come and fresh out of game school or whatever.
Hmm. For
And
practicing their
yeah, and
knowledge
they've
or
worked for me
something
for
like
a little while to do
that.
and to work on various things, and have leveraged that experience to get into another studio.
Hmm. That's great.
You know, so that's another thing. I mean, and it's the idea of an internship,
You
especially
help
in a
each other. They
like
help
mine.
you. You help them. That's great.
Yeah, and it might be a little bit distasteful, but
Mhm.
sometimes you might have to suck it up at least a little bit.
Yeah. Nowadays, many people think that developing a video game is almost only just fun thing and easy thing, and they should just,
No,
and they think that they, because of that, they just earning lesser money than the general people, because video game, it's for kids and it's easy thing, and
yeah,
it's for
yeah, that's a common attitude.
uh,
Not only from people who aren't in who people who want to be in the industry who aren't in the industry,
yes.
and people who aren't in the industry and are looking at it.
And sometimes
Um,
they don't see it as an art, but nowadays it's
yeah, but
complex
it's I mean
art.
it's an
So
art and it's a job,
of course, yeah.
and you've got if you're working for a game company, you have to treat it like a job. You know, you have to expect that
Mm-hmm.
you're going to show up on time, you're going to do the work,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean there is a little bit of fun, and you don't have to wear a suit, and you can play games sometimes, but you still got to get the work done.
And also
And
deadlines and everything else. So, yeah.
yeah, and you work hard. I mean, when I said you might work, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for months, that really happens. It happened back then, and it still happens today.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to be ready for that. And game developers, that burns them out. It burns out a lot of people. A lot of developers eventually just say, I've got a family now. I can't be spending all my time at work.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it wears on you. You show up, and you wake up on Saturday morning, and your friends are going out to ride motorcycles or play paintball or do whatever, and you can't go because you got to go to work.
Hmm. Yes.
And so there is that same sort of I just wish I could stay home and sleep in.
And sometimes
But
sleep can be a dream.
yeah, yeah, but it's still there's still good points about it. I mean, you still get to make games, you still get to be creative, you still get to have an effect on other people's lives
Mhm.
that you might not have in a job as an IT technician
And
or
of course,
something.
this is what you want to do. It's a hobby. It's your love thing, something like that.
Yeah, like it, people are still talking to me about a game I made 20 years ago.
Yes.
If I had gone to another industry back then, that wouldn't be happening now. So there is that sort of personal sort of life
Yes.
satisfaction
You would
about
do
it.
the same, yeah. If we turn back time, you would do the
Hmm.
same. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah. I might even go harder.
yeah. That's great to hear. So, beginning to develop some new RPG games or something like that, or FPS games
Yeah, yeah,
for the later generations, and not
yeah. If I went
stopping.
back in time, I would have started it when I was 14.
Oh,
I would have learned how to program Commodore 64 games when I was 14.
So start fresh, new and earliest as possible, something like that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's great. So had the advice in your minds.
Yeah.
And let's start. Not thinking, not doing. Start. Yeah, it's a great thing, and great games can be possible nowadays with these engines. So nowadays they said everything is possible almost. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, everything you can make almost. You just have the professions and the basics and everything else, but after that your imagination and of course the budget maybe can
Yeah.
pay the way. So yeah. Thank you about the conversation, the talking. I really
Sure.
appreciate it, and I
Yeah.
hope
Thanks
the
for coming.
viewers and watchers are really like it, and many interesting things can know now. So, and I wish a really great success to the new game, Aeolwyn Legacy. I will link it. Okay, the demo link it under the video.
Yeah. Yeah. For
And
sure.
maybe later I have a beta topic almost look like in the YouTube channel. Maybe I can put some videos about the game or something like that. So
Yeah.
I will put with commentary.
Yeah, I'm planning to do once the demo's a little once the new demo's out. I think I'm going to do a developer let's
Oh,
play.
that's great.
Oh, that should be
I want to
a
see
good-
that. Okay, so thank you again, and I hope it will release sooner or later, but in the Polish way, and I think you will
Yeah.
polish it as possible. So
Yeah,
I
after
think-
my experience with MM9, I want to make sure it's not buggy as that was.
of course, I think it will be fine, way more stable than it was.
I hope
that
so.
one. So thank you again, and have a good week ahead with us. Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye.